Let us pray. As Canadians and as Albertans, we give thanks for the precious gifts of freedom and peace which we enjoy. As members of this Legislative Assembly, we rededicate ourselves to the valued traditions of parliamentary democracy as a means of serving both our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors.
Speaker, it's not every day, obviously, that anyone, sir, has a birthday, let alone a fifth birthday, and today's a very special occasion, sir, to, I'm sure you and all of us, as this is the 5th anniversary of your election to this august body as Speaker of the Assembly, and I'm sure all honorable members in the House will join with me in not only congratulating you, sir, and wishing you happy birthday, but wish you many more of the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce to the Legislative Assembly a very special guest, along with a special friend that is in your gallery here today. I'd like to introduce the Honorable Al Hook, that served in this legislature from 1935 to 1971, along with a student of his. And I'd like Philip Klein to stand. Philip Klein is the father of my colleague, the Minister of Environment. I'd like Mr. Speaker, these two gentlemen, principal and student in the School of Rocky Mountain House, have graced our legislature today, and I think have brought many honors to the province of Alberta. And I'd like the two gentlemen, if they'd like to be seated, that would be fine. But if at the pleasure of the House, Mr. Speaker, I would like to make one or two remarks with regards to the contribution of the Honourable Mr. Hook in his years in this legislature. Great. If that would be permissible.
Great.
Mr. Speaker, Alf Hook, as a colleague and a friend of a number of years, became a person that I knew very well, and from a person which gave some very sage advice to myself as a new member of the legislature. He was successful in 9 elections in his 36 years as a representative in the province of Alberta, a teacher in Trochu and 1 or 2 other places in Alberta, held 7 portfolios of provincial secretary, economic affairs, public works, municipal affairs, public welfare, and lands and forests, and also was deputy premier for some 14 years. He is holds the record of being the longest serving member of one single government in Canada at the present time. He represented the constituencies of Red Deer, Rocky Mountain House, and I want to say that I've learned a number of things, one of them being that Mr. Hook has had a great sense of humor, and one of the items that he gave to us at a number of members' parties were poems with regards to Little Albert, and he was a very great person that was able to tell the story of that young gentleman in a number of circumstances. A couple of things that he said today. One of the things, his vision has been impaired somewhat lately, but he said that has brought about a benefit, that he can see many of the political issues today more clearly, being somewhat visually blind, than he did when he had Vision 2020. He also said, Mr. Premier, and to pass on to you, that with his 36 years of experience, that he's ready to take on any portfolio again. Two of the experiences that we had together was when I first became a member in 1963, representing a rural constituency. I thought I should go in and talk to the Minister of Municipal Affairs. And one of the questions he raised with me, feeling that I might have the answer, and I don't think I did, and I'm sure I didn't, was what was the definition of a farm for the purposes of assessment?
No. Still haven't got it.
When I took over this portfolio in 1989, that same question rested before me. So progress is slow in government. But one of the other hidden attributes that Mr. Hook has is the ability to be a hypnotist. And I've witnessed that on a number of occasions, not only in this legislature, but in private home settings. And one of the things that he had a great capability of doing was to have long-term speeches. And in the days when the rules were very flexible and very open, he was one of the ministers, and I noted this in my first year here in this assembly, that the introduction would start on the first day of a speech, on the second day would be the body of the speech, and on the third day would be the conclusion. And I always wondered when I gave my 3-minute speeches how anybody could do that. Now what I've learned over the years that you do catch some kind of a disease in this assembly that protracts a lot of statements. But Mr. Speaker, we welcome Mr. Hook and wish him the best of health and thank him very much on behalf of the people of Alberta for the great contribution that he has made to all this.
Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
Member for Westlock Sturgeon.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to serve notice to you and through you to the Assembly that I intend moving at the end of the question period a motion that the legislature, can I read it? The Legislative Assembly of Alberta recognize and extend congratulations to Ovid Mercedes on his election as a leader of the Assembly of First Nations and express its hopes that the Alberta government will agree to cooperate with the Assembly of First Nations to resolve the many outstanding issues concerning the Aboriginal peoples of Alberta.
Standing Order 40, hopefully that will come forward. There's sufficient copies for distribution so we can have a look at them, please. Thank you.
Introduction of bills. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Advanced Education.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table the 1989 annual reports of both the Grant MacEwan Community College and Olds College.
Thank you. Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to file with the Assembly today the response to written question number 395.
Thank you. Minister of Education.
Speaker, I wish to file with the Assembly today the response to motion for return 382.
Thank you. Smoky Lake. Smoky
River.
Smoky River.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to table a 1990 report for the Alberta Social Care Facilities Review Committee.
That's it.
Introduction of special guests.
Special guests, Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce to you and through you to the Assembly 20 students from the Balf Elementary School, Camrose constituency. They're seated in the members gallery, and I'd ask that they rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly. Thank you. They're escorted by their teacher, Margaret Pirro, bus driver Alan Kennedy, and parent Linda Nikiforik. Thank you.
Member for Athabasca Lac-La-Biche, followed by Edmonton Jasper Place.
I'd like to introduce to you and through you to the Assembly over 20 parents, students, municipal councillors and school board members here from the town of Lac-La-Biche area. They're here to meet with the minister, talking about some of the issues I've talked about inequities in the education system, and I commend them for that. Also today there are another 100 people doing the same process in Lac-La-Biche. I would ask the members and the students and councillors to stand up and be recognized by this Assembly.
Edmonton Jasper, please.
Mr. Speaker, it gives me a real pleasure to introduce students from Archbishop MacDonald High School today, because a year ago we were in a life and death struggle on whether that institution would survive. I should point out Archbishop MacDonald has been a motherlode for pages in this assembly. We have presently 5 pages who are students at Archbishop MacDonald. They're John McGee, Susan Diosagi, Janet McGuyan, Monique Hyam, and Daria Fustukian. But the group today is led by Mr. Bill Koblock. There are 20 grade 10 students in the gallery, and I'd like them to stand and please receive the welcome of the assembly.
Minister for Occupational Development, Safety, followed by Edmonton Calder.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure today to introduce some 24 grade 6 students from the David Ovens Elementary School in Sangudo in my constituency. They're accompanied by their teacher, Mr. Lonnie Sturgeon, and parents Chris Williams, Debbie Harupchuk, Marge Mills, and Karen Percy. They're seated, Mr. Speaker, in the members' gallery. I'd ask them to rise and receive the warm welcome of this assembly.
Edmonton Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is my pleasure today to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly, on behalf of my colleague from Edmonton Centre, a group of 12 adults, and they are seated in the public gallery. They were with a group called Options for Adults. They are accompanied by their teachers, Mrs. Lois Kath Nelson and Mrs. Terry Belia. I would ask that they please rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Economic Development and Trade. Mr. Speaker, as part of this government's irresponsible and costly habit of throwing loan guarantees at failing companies, this government has more than $12 million of loans and loan guarantees tied up in Alberta Pacific terminals. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, this company is desperately trying to stave off bankruptcy by presenting a proposal to the Alberta government to reorganize its debts. Well, Mr. Speaker, we've taken a look at this proposal, and frankly, the writing's on the wall. The taxpayers of this province are going to have to pay again, Mr. Speaker. For one, Alberta Pacific Terminals wants the government to, listen to this, write down its debt. It also wants the remaining debt to be interest-free, and it only wants to repay if the company makes a profit, Mr. Speaker. Clear, the taxpayers are going to take a bath. But my question to the minister is simply this. Will the minister now finally come clean and now admit that the taxpayers of Alberta are going to lose millions of dollars on this project because of this government's mismanagement and secret deals with its friends?
Mr. Speaker, first let me correct the assumption that the honourable member is working upon, and he's indicated that we have exposure in excess of $12 million, which is incorrect. It is less than $12 million, and it's important that we be factual. The honourable member has the information available to them. A loan guarantee was offered some time ago for $9 million. Under my responsibility, we issued another $3 million loan, recognizing the importance that port facility played to the exportation of Alberta goods. I appreciate the honourable member offering his suggestion whereby we should reject the restructuring plan. We're presently analyzing that restructuring plan and hope to have a response to our acceptance or rejection of that very soon.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me apologize a minute. It's only $11.6 million, but that doesn't include the Treasury branches, Mr. Speaker, which would take it over 12. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, because of this government's shrewd negotiating skills and failure to protect taxpayers' money, Alberta Pacific Terminals is threatening to exercise an option in the secret deal it made with the government to convert the money it owes the government into almost worthless shares in the government if the government does not go along with this proposal, something the government agreed to, Mr. Speaker. So either way, the government loses. It either accepts some ridiculous proposal that will cost Alberta taxpayers big, or the company converts the government's status as a creditor into worthless shares, Mr. Speaker. My question is, why did the government make such a sweetheart deal with this company? Is it because they are incompetent or because these were friends of the government? Which is it?
Mr. Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the multiple choice question that the leader of the New Democratic Party puts, but he has to add a number of other multiplicities to it, because the reason we involved ourselves was so that we would have greater access to export markets for products that are produced within this province. That's the long and the short of our involvement in it. I should indicate to the honourable member also that there are certain sensitivities in the event that there is court actions. It limits us to what we can say leading up to those court actions in the event that they do occur. But it's important that we put the truth on the record rather than, again, the misrepresentations and the campaign of false information that this member indulges in on a consistent basis. We wanted to make sure that we could export products that are produced within the province of Alberta to markets other than our own. We recognize that the NDP does not support the trade agreement. We recognize that they want to draw a wall around Alberta so that we can slowly wither away and die within this province, but we're not going to buy that suggestion on their part. We want to make sure that we continue to have access to markets other than our own.
You know, this is such absolute nonsense. Here's the truth right in here, Mr. Speaker. That's the truth. Read it. And the fact is, this government made another stupid deal with its friends, and the taxpayers are going to lose the money. And I want to ask this minister, rather than talking about trade and access to markets, what you have is access to the people's money, Mr. Speaker. And I want to again ask him why this government would agree to this secret deal with this company that allows it to essentially extort the government into owning this failing company unless it agrees to take a bath on its proposal. That's the bottom line, Mr. Speaker.
So why? Mr. Speaker, the stupidity of the honourable member amazes me. I've indicated to him that there is no secret deal. We have not yet determined as to whether we're going to agree to the restructuring proposal that has been put before us. And in due time, I'm happy to indicate to the honourable member, as I will indicate to this Legislative Assembly, as to what we are going to do. We're going to exercise every measure possible to make sure that we protect the interests of the taxpayers' dollars. At the same time, we're going to make sure that we continue to have access to markets other than our own because of our involvement. And we highlighted that on a number of occasions. Because of the involvement of this government, we recognize there have been some that have not worked out to the degree that we would have wished. But because of our success rate, we've got the strongest economy in Canada. We're going to continue to involve ourselves in a limited degree to make sure that we can create meaningful employment for all Albertans.
Second main question.
But my second question is to the Premier, Mr. Speaker. We understand in about a week the Premier is going to dash off entourage in tow to Paris, London, and New York. The entourage, I'm told, includes the Premier, his advisor, and his executive assistant, their spouses. And he's going to sell trade for us, Mr. Speaker. Let me first of all say, Mr. Speaker, that I find no problem with the Premier leading a true trade delegation to bring business to the province, Mr. Speaker. But there is a right way and there is a wrong way to go about doing this, Mr. Speaker, and it seems that the Premier is going to choose his usual way, the wrong way. My first question is to the Premier simply this: why is he not prepared to release an itinerary on the so-called trade mission?
Mr. Speaker, it is true that I am, as we've already said before in the legislature, going to Europe and the United Kingdom and the United States. It is a trip that I wanted to make last year, and then because of illness and convalescence was unable to do it. Nevertheless, we have been able to put the ingredients of the trip back together again. It's an excellent time, Mr. Speaker, to be telling people about the attractions of Alberta. I will be meeting with ministers of other governments. I'll be meeting with diplomats. I'll be meeting with the Organization of Economic Cooperation. I'll be looking into such matters as GATT and agricultural reforms, many of these matters that really are important to our province. So, Mr. Speaker, it'll be a busy trip. There's no particular pleasure, I think, in traveling, leaving home, and traveling on a tight schedule to foreign countries, but nevertheless, I think it's something that should be done, and I hope it opens the doors for much larger missions that would follow with ministers of the government.
Mr. Speaker, if you're doing all these things, fair enough. That's what I've said, Mr. Speaker. But I asked a simple question. If you're doing all this great work, all we're asking is lay out the itinerary. Lay it out, Mr. Speaker. Tell us who you're meeting with and why you're meeting with them, and lay it out. It's public money, not private business, Mr. Speaker. Why won't he do that?
Mr. Speaker, I've just given them a great deal of information about the trip. Now, that is true that there are many private meetings with companies and with diplomats and with ministers of other governments, and those matters are meetings that we've arranged on a private basis, and frankly, I see no benefits of giving it to the opposition. I don't know how they would ever help.
Mr. Speaker, this Premier has a strange idea. These are not private meetings. If they were, you'd pay for them out of your own pocket. This is public money, Mr. Speaker. The public money. And that's the point, Mr. Speaker. That's why we should have the itinerary. Well, obviously, we're not going to get it. He avoids the question. But, Mr. Speaker, my third question is this. If this is, and I stress, if this is a real trade mission and not just a holiday, why is the Premier taking his advisor and executive assistant along and their spouses instead of people from the Economic Development and Trade Department, such as business leaders, such as labor leaders? That's what you usually do when you go on these sorts of trips, Mr. Speaker.
No, it isn't, Mr. Speaker, what you usually do. As a matter of fact, the honourable member would never know, because no one's ever going to give him the responsibility to do it. That's for sure. But Mr. Speaker, it is important that using the benefits of the Premier's office, that we're able to open the doors for larger missions that would come in the future. And Mr. Speaker, I hope that we're able to point out to people as they look across Canada right now that there are provinces that are not as attractive for investing in, those provinces that support the philosophies of the Leader of the Opposition. And many people now are looking at the free enterprise traditions of Alberta. And I think it's an outstanding time to be able to go and point out to people in the United Kingdom, in Europe, and the United States the great benefits of investing in a province with such great free enterprise traditions. I'm also want to represent our farmers there as chairman of the Agricultural Committee of Cabinet to make sure that we can stress the importance of having fair markets and level playing fields in order that our farmers, who can compete with anyone, can reach markets at a decent price all over the country.
Edmonton Glengarry on behalf of the Liberal Party.
Yeah, we're having a bad day.
Mr. Speaker, to the Honourable Premier. Mr. Speaker, a year ago, the province of Alberta and the province of British Columbia were part of a plan that they called disentanglement. This was a plan to pull powers away from the national government, to weaken the national government, particularly in the areas of education, healthcare, and social safety net programs. As part of that plan, the Treasurer of Alberta was telling Albertans that there should be a separate income tax system. Mr. Speaker, the Treasurer of our province is back at it again, this time in collusion with the Mulroney government, that of course wants to give as much power to Quebec as they can take. My first question to the Premier is this. Albertans clearly want a strong national government. Why is it, Mr. Premier, that your government and you continue to press, along with the Mulroney government, for a position of decentralization, a position that Albertans don't want, don't care for, and won't buy into?
Mr. Speaker, I'm really surprised at the leader of the Liberal Party, who seems to so often have his facts incorrect, to try and guess at what the people of Alberta's position would be. Obviously, we're going right now through the process of constitutional hearings. And we have had quite a few, and we're going on with more through the Special Select Committee. I was quite disappointed that the Liberal Party voted against holding these additional hearings so that Albertans could express themselves. I can see now why they voted against it, because they have picked a position without listening to the people of Alberta and want to instead dictate the Liberal philosophy. Well, we're not agreeing with that, Mr. Speaker. We're going to get the information from the people of Alberta. Now, the government of Alberta wants a strong, united country. It's the only way this country is going to be able to reach its potential. A strong, united country. We want a strong federal government. That's necessary in a strong, united country. But we don't want to be like the Liberals who roll over and play dead. We don't want to be dominated by them. That's the key.
That's it.
Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted to note that the Premier has considerably modified and softened his position. He never used to talk about strong national governments, never. And it was this Premier that talked about decentralization and that the Constitutional Committee would look only at the degrees, not the issue of decentralization. My second question is to the Honourable Treasurer. Mr. Speaker, the accounting profession says that a separate income tax system will mean more cost, more complexity, and more bureaucracy. Why doesn't the Treasurer simply admit that there isn't simplicity or a reduction of taxes involved in this process? It is simply to weaken the national government. Will you admit that, Mr. Treasurer?
Mr. Speaker, what humbug we hear from that member from Glengarry today. The accounting profession has said nothing of the sort, Mr. Speaker, and we have put in place here a process which is going to look at the way in which tax fairness continues in the province of Alberta. We have maintained in this province, Mr. Speaker, not only the lowest tax rates of any province in Canada, taking the load off the low-income individuals in this province by selective tax reductions, and to maintaining that commitment, Mr. Speaker, to Albertans, we want to ensure that we've examined every possible way to ensure that fairness in the personal income tax system exists in this province. We're proud of that record. That's a clear objective of this government, Mr. Speaker, and that's what this plan is about. Fairer, ensure that the low-income people have an opportunity to not be taxed at the same levels they are in Ontario or in other provinces, for example, and moreover, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that the simplification of that tax system is maintained. Now, what we've agreed to yesterday in Charlottetown, Mr. Speaker, was to initiate a study along these lines. Now, this is a study which deals with the fundamental responsibilities under the Constitution of the province, the right of direct taxation. And if we can improve upon it, if we can review it, and if we can strengthen the way in which the tax system works, maintaining this tax fairness, Mr. Speaker, that I underscore, then we have done something. And it must be done in the context of what are the responsibilities of government, not in the context of the ongoing discussion of the Constitution, because the two are not related.
Mr. Speaker, the Premier has done a flip-flop on the issue of a strong national government. And I laugh at it, but it's a fact. My last question to the Premier is this. Now, if the Premier is now saying that he wants a strong national government, is he also saying that the national government should be involved in setting national standards for education, health care, social safety net programs, and the environment?
Mr. Speaker, what in the world is the honourable member thinking of when he has members of his party on a select committee of this legislature going about the province listening to Albertans? I mean, what is he thinking of when he is now asking the government to dictate in advance what the conditions would be that we are going to ask for in our constitutional discussions? I mean, is that the kind of consultation with the people of Alberta we would expect from this member? That's the kind of leadership, I guess, you have when you have a party membership that isn't worth anything.
Right.
That's the kind of leadership, I guess, you have when you leave your city pouring raw sewage into a river because you don't have the guts to make a decision on how to fix it. That's the leadership that can't even provide something as basic as a garbage dump for your city.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Grand Prairie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday afternoon there was a very important function that took place in the city of Grand Prairie. Our Premier was there to open a new Northern Addiction Center. And I'd like to ask the Premier if he could bring the Assembly up to date on what this facility is and the scope of its functions.
Mr. Speaker, I would bet that every member of the legislature, other than the member for Vegreville perhaps, would really want to know about this Northern Addiction Center, because it's a remarkable addition to Northern Alberta. It was a pleasure to be with the people of Grand Prairie yesterday, because the community very much associates with and supports the facility. It's a beautiful facility. It's in a lovely location with city park around it, and it is able to provide services in the area of substance abuse that is unmatched anywhere in North America. There is no other facility that has these services under one roof. It is the detoxification service, treatment, prevention, and education. And I'm extremely pleased that our ADAC chairman and the former ADAC chairman, for that minister, the Honourable Minister of Advanced Education, showed the leadership working with the MLA to make this facility, which is a dream and a hope for many people who are addicted in the North, to actually have this dream come true with this magnificent facility.
Mr. Speaker, I was wondering if the Premier would...
Grand Prairie.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if the Premier would expand further on the geographic scope of this facility with respect to other parts of the province, the country, or whether we do in fact have a reciprocal agreement with other countries.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, it is true that the North has a disturbing number of substance abuse problems, and therefore there are dramatic numbers there, greater than a percentage basis than across the rest of Alberta. And we know that it strikes our native communities and remote and isolated areas. And it can really have a dramatic, damaging impact on a community. And therefore, this great facility is sited in the north. And this need was identified by the Northern Alberta Development Council, because through hearings all across the north, they were able to establish that this was perhaps one of the greatest needs. And therefore, ADAC responded, and it has been built in Northern Alberta. But I must say that we're pleased that it will be able to service all of Alberta. It probably will find needs to service from the Northwest Territories, probably from the East Peace River block of British Columbia, and perhaps may even also be able to provide services to other people from the United States. I know it is without duplication anywhere in North America, and it's good to know that our government in Alberta is taking such a leadership role in this very important issue.
Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Premier, last Friday, loyal Tory and party bagman Fred Weatherup was convicted in Calgary court on multiple counts of fraud to the tune of $9 million. This is the same Fred Weatherup that this government appointed to the AGT Commission and as a Novotel vice president or vice chairman. I suppose this is the case the Premier had in mind when he said on Monday that appointments are filled by the best people the government can obtain for the job. Will the Premier agree to immediately stop these insulting patronage appointments and begin a fair system that sees that Albertans are appointed on what they know, not who they know? Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not familiar with Mr. Weatherup's case. I do know that he was not a director when he was charged, and so I wouldn't get into his personal relationships with the courts.
You'd have to wonder who made the appointment, wouldn't you? Mr. Speaker, Mr. Weatherup's fraud was committed in the years 1984 to 1989, almost exactly the same time period that he was Vice President of Novotel. Would the Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunication tell us what steps he has taken to see to it that this man, Mr. Weatherup, had nothing whatsoever to do with the $204 million loss of Novotel, or shall I say of the taxpayers?
Mr. Speaker, as the Premier has indicated, Mr. Weatherup was not a director of Novotel or TELUS at the time that he was charged. There were some circumstances, however. There were circumstances, though, that came to light at the time that he was. And when those circumstances came to light, I asked the chairman of the TELUS Corporation to confirm to me that becoming aware of Mr. Weatherup's financial problems, whether in fact the board had in fact put their minds to the matter and examined whether or not there were any circumstances that would have prejudiced his position as a director. The board did put their mind to that, examined the situation, and concluded that it did not. And I have confirmation from the chairman of TELUS board in that respect.
I'm sure honourable members are well aware of Beauchene 409 subsection 7. Thank you, but I'm quite certain also that members of our viewing audience are not. A question must adhere to the proprieties of the House in terms of inferences, imputing motives, or casting aspersions upon persons within the House or out of it. Close. Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to question the Premier today about his upcoming trip. In a phone call to the Premier's office, we learned, Mr. Speaker, that the trip is much like the government. There's no plan and there's no itinerary. Somehow that doesn't come as much surprise. We've done some estimates on the cost of this trip. And for 10 days, it looks like it's going to cost anywhere between $35,000 and $60,000, depending upon where he stays and how he travels and how many goes along. Unfortunately, the Premier's office won't tell us any of that information, despite the fact it's taxpayers' money at the expense here. And so my question to the Premier is, since all of this information has been denied not only to the Liberal caucus, but to the Alberta taxpayer who's paying for your trip, Mr. Premier, my question is, will the Premier today announce details, not simply Europe, but which countries, which ministers, who the meetings are going to be with, and what's the detailed itinerary?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as far as I know, that when a question's been asked and dealt with, it's only a waste of the honourable member's time to repeat it.
Well, more sidestepping. I hear St. Andrews looks great this time of year. I hope you have a great time. My question, my supplementary question to the Minister, or to the Premier, is, since he must be totally unprepared and he doesn't have any idea where he's going or who he's meeting with, how can he justify this kind of expenditure in light of all the cuts and expend this money on behalf of taxpayers and not tell them why he's spending it or how?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is, of course, pursuing an absolutely disgraceful line of questioning. These kind of missions, the honourable member doesn't know, but these kind of missions take a great deal of work between our agents generals, our Department of Intergovernmental Affairs, our Department of Economic Development and Trade, and we work with very busy people in these other countries to set up detailed, comprehensive meeting schedules. And that's what's going to happen. And then let's deal with the matter of the dollars. Every dollar that's spent is laid before this legislature. It's laid before this legislature in complete details. It goes before our public accounts committees. It is all there, right down to invoices. So to have him ask those questions the way he is shows that he is really unaware of the way any legislature works, and unaware of how this type of very, very important mission operates.
Rocky Mountain House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For some considerable time now, we know that several departments of the provincial government, along with the RCMP, have been investigating the contaminated fuel situation at Hinton. I'm sure that everyone in this House is sympathetic and has a great deal of concern for those that have suffered loss or injury as a result of this contaminated fuel. But I know that no one is more concerned than our Premier. So I would like to ask him today what exactly is the status of this investigation.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it is a matter that the honourable member for Rocky Mountain House has raised with me and our caucus on numerous occasions. And as I told the House once before, I've asked the Deputy Minister of Executive Council, the Deputy of our Cabinet, to coordinate a review of the matter to see if, in fact, there is a need for a inquiry, whether there's need for a police investigation, whether there's a need for some other type of follow-up. Because, as the honourable members know, that the Department of Environment, Occupational Health and Safety, Transportation, and perhaps the emergency services are all involved to some extent, but not completely with an overall responsibility. Well, the report back to me is that this matter should now move to the Attorney General's Department, and it should be coordinated under his Crown Prosecutor's Division, and I'm looking forward to how that develops, because we want to track down every possible angle here. And it may be the honourable member will get additional information from the Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Attorney General, then, what actions is the Attorney General's Department taking?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Department has appointed a Crown Prosecutor, Mr. Leo Wendon, to coordinate the investigation, as the Premier had mentioned, of the numerous departments and the RCMP that have been involved. And the thrust will be to, as I mentioned earlier, to get an inventory of the evidence we have from the various departments and to find from that as to whether any of the federal or provincial laws have been breached, and to recommend an action that can take place. We've set a deadline of July 5th or earlier for this report to come, and an action plan from that time.
Stony Plain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last Friday in the Assembly, the provincial treasurer, when asked what he was doing to solve Alberta's pension crisis, said that he had, and I quote, met with the boards of all 5 of the province's pension plans. It's somewhat peculiar, Mr. Speaker, that the executive in charge of pensions with the Alberta Union of Provincial Employees had to go to a pension conference in Ontario to hear the details of the Alberta government's pension reforms. It is outrageous, Mr. Speaker, outrageous that Alberta stakeholders have to go outside the province to hear details of what this government intends to do with their pension plans. Mr. Speaker, to the provincial treasurer, will the provincial treasurer kindly share with this Assembly, as he has evidently done with other jurisdictions, the details of the changes he is planning for Alberta's public pension plans that he is involved with?
Yeah, come on.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the people of Alberta realize how confused that member is and how he continues to misunderstand what it is that we have said. Speaker, yesterday or last Friday in the House, I said that I had the agreement of all 5 pension boards that I'm responsible for. I have their agreement to deal with the question of federal tax changes as it impacts on those pension plans. I said that I had that agreement. I have letters to confirm that agreement. I have not discussed it any further than that, Mr. Speaker, and I'm not prepared to provide any additional details till I have a chance to provide the details to the pension board members themselves.
Mr. Speaker, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Keeping stakeholders in the dark seems to be the rule rather than an exception for the provincial treasurer. On a regular basis since 1985, when he was then Minister of Advanced Education, and continuing until just a few months ago, he has been assuring the Alberta College Institute Faculties Association, who represent the faculties of 13 of Alberta's finest post-secondary institutions, that they would be consulted in any reforms to their pension plan. However, as late as last week, the Treasurer still had not responded to a request from the Alberta College Institute Faculties Association, which was made in March, for details of the Treasurer's reform proposals. Given that the pension reform proposal now appears to be firmly finalized in the Treasurer's mind, how does the Treasurer defend his failure to consult stakeholders groups such as the Alberta Union of Provincial Employees, the Alberta Teachers Association, Alberta Union of Provincial College Institutes, after repeatedly promising that they would have input into pension reforms?
Yeah, how about it?
Mr. Speaker, the key words that the member has said is, in fact, inputs in the pension reform, and that's the commitment I left with the pension boards. They will confirm it. I have said that I wanted to talk in a general way about some of the themes, some of the principles. We've had that discussion, and we have also come to some conclusion about how to handle this federal change, as I mentioned. I also committed, Mr. Speaker, that when I got the detailed proposals ready, and they should be ready in about the next week or so, the first people I'd address the information to would be the board, and then we plan over the fall period to have an opportunity to discuss with all interested parties. Speaker, that's the process. I point out to members of the Legislative Assembly that this member thinks a COLA adjustment is a change in a soft drink.
Edmonton Goldbar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a week ago, the government received a 16,000 name petition circulated by the Society for the Retired and Semi-Retired and the Alberta Council on Aging. The petition asked that the government reinstate the cuts in services to seniors. We've heard nothing from the government since then. Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberal caucus is here to remind the government that this protest is not going to go away till the government retreats on this regressive attack on Alberta seniors. My questions are to the Associate Minister of Family and Social Services. I'd like to ask the Minister, Mr. Speaker, what is the Associate Minister's response to the petition?
Well, as I've said on previous occasions, Mr. Speaker, I have met with a number of groups. We have admitted that the consultation process that was undertaken could have been better, and we have pledged to improve that. In fact, we have structured a meeting later on this month with a representative group from across the province of agencies, and I'm not going to preempt that discussion with those agencies.
Mr. Speaker, my supplementary then is why on earth should seniors bother to meet with the minister unless the minister is prepared to reinstate the cuts?
Well, that's kind of stupid. That's a stupid question.
I'm not sure that I really understand the question, Mr. Speaker. If she is asking me if I have a fixed position before I go into a discussion with this group, I do not. That is the purpose of the discussion. We are going to consult with the senior groups. We have promised to do that, and we will do this. And it's not a sham, as the leader of the Liberal Party is indicating. Quite the contrary. We're very sincere in our efforts to increase the communication between the seniors and our government.
Athabasca-Lacklebush.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Honourable Minister of Environment. Mr. Speaker, I understand the Dyesawa pulp mill has been fined $75,000 under the Provincial Clean Air and Clean Water Act, the largest fine ever, an environmental fine for the province. Mr. Speaker, this shows that our government is serious about protecting our environment. Mr. Speaker, I also understand that the City of Edmonton dumped 6 million litres of untreated sewage last week without any fines. Mr. Speaker, and I'm very disappointed that the opposition here, they're worried about the Athabasca River, but who is worried about the North Saskatchewan River? No one is worried about the North. Are there any fish in that river? Mr. Speaker, and he wants slides on an economic mission. He should have slides of the river. My question to the honourable minister is, Mr. Speaker, are there two sets of laws in Alberta, one for Edmonton and one for pulp mills?
Well, no, Mr. Speaker. There's only one set of laws in the province, but there are different circumstances under which those laws must be interpreted. In the Daishoa case, clearly there was an instance of a circumstance that could have been prevented, and the steps were not taken to prevent sewage from not being treated properly, and they were subsequently charged and fined, and they were also charged under the Clean Air Act with improper burning. In the case of the City of Edmonton, and I think that the Premier, the Honourable Premier, Mr. Speaker, outlined the situation relative to the City of Edmonton very, very adequately. Unfortunately, due to the inaction of previous administrations, they have a situation in the City of Edmonton whereby if there's a heavy rainstorm, the sewage goes into the North Saskatchewan River raw. Now, we've had to give the City of Edmonton an operating permit which allows them to discharge this terrible stuff into the river. Otherwise, it would back up into basements and create a tremendous health problem. No, there are not two sets of laws. There are sets of different circumstances. And indeed, we took the proper steps in the case of the Daishoa situation, and we have taken, unfortunately, the proper step in the case of the Edmonton sewage situation.
Mr. Speaker, my supplement, we all know that we need good environmental standards across Canada, and I know Alberta leads the way. And I would, can the Honourable Minister tell me if he is working on setting up standards that are the same across Canada as what Alberta has, and maybe our leader of the opposition could help by getting his colleague in Ontario to clean up the 25 pulp mills they have, which 8 of them are bleachcraft. Maybe the minister can pass him some information to educate him.
Alluded to the situation in other jurisdictions, and I've spoken to many groups about pulp mill standards in this province, and I wonder why they would attack the highest achievable environmental standards in the world when they should be targeting those rotten, stinking, belching, polluting pulp mills in Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and British Columbia.
Edmonton Jasper, please.
Well, congratulations where congratulations are due. I congratulate the minister on 5 counts in the Clean Air Act, Daishoa 1 in the Clean Water Act, hoping, along with my colleague from Athabasca Lac-La-Biche, that this signifies a new direction in government policy. I would like to ask the Minister of Environment if he has now prepared charges against Procter & Gamble in respect of 36 separate violations of their Clean Water Act, which occurred during the summer of 1989 when he was the Minister of the Environment.
You know, the honourable member is obviously getting information from his friends, my friends too. All John McGuinness's friends, friends of the Peace, friends of the North, friends of the Athabasca, friends of the Old Man River. They're all the same friends. Mr. Speaker, I had the opportunity to visit with the honourable member for Grand Prairie, the Procter & Gamble mill in Grand Prairie about a week ago. And I would like to state that This mill has spent something in the neighborhood of $80 million to refit. It is now within 0.2% of reaching the highest achievable standard, which is absolutely remarkable. Yes, there were some problems with that mill some time ago, but I can give you every assurance, Mr. Speaker, that this mill has done everything possible to come up to the extremely high standards, the best environmental standards achievable in the world, has made every attempt to come up to those standards, and is operating now as one of the cleanest mills in the country.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I got my information from Alberta Environment Standards and Approvals, and I didn't ask the MLA if charges should be laid or not. My question is a specific one. An official of Alberta Environment stated to local people that Procter & Gamble would not be charged because they'd notified the department. Is it the policy in Alberta that you can, as long as you notify the department, you can dump as much stuff as you want in the river and you're not going to have any charges? Let's have the truth of the matter.
No, absolutely nonsense. Just absolute nonsense. It's so typical of the kind of misinterpretation of facts and documents that this member constantly brings up in the Assembly, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Procter & Gamble mill was undergoing a very serious refit to bring their standards up to the highest achievable standards possible. And yes, there were certain days where they went above, but on the aggregate, Mr. Speaker, they were below their license limit. They were below their license limit on chlorinated organics. They were below their license limit on biochemical oxygen demand. They were below their license limit on total suspended solids and on color and odors. Overall, Mr. Speaker, that mill has done a remarkable job under the circumstances.
Question period has expired. Before we go on to some other matters, might we revert briefly to the introduction of guests? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Minister of Culture, Multiculturalism.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce to the Assembly today a great Albertan, a singer, songwriter, an artist of considerable international repute. Tim Feehan is in the gallery today. He's been in Edmonton for the last while. He'll be traveling with me to Calgary in a short while to continue the introduction of a new exciting piece of video and music that will, I believe, continue to keep Alberta in the forefront in its multicultural policies. Ask Tim to stand up and receive a warm welcome.
Calgary, McKnight, point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, during our response, which took place during question period...
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, during a response to a question posed by the leader of the Liberal Party during question period, the Honourable Premier suggested that the two Liberal caucus members on the Special Select Committee on Constitutional Reform voted against a second round of hearings. Mr. Speaker, the record will show that that is absolutely not the case. We voted against September hearings. We wanted July hearings, and I wanted to set the record straight.
Thank you for the information, Honourable Member. It's certainly not a point of order. Standing Order 40. Standing Order 40.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In moving that the legislature recognize and extend congratulations to Ovid McCready on his election as leader of the Assembly of First Nations, and express its hopes that the Alberta government will agree to cooperate with the Assembly of First Nations to resolve the many outstanding issues concerning the Aboriginal peoples of Alberta, and asking the legislature to give unanimous consent to give a brief rundown. As Mr. McCready was elected the Manitoba Regional Chief in November of 1989, and he graduated in law from the University of Manitoba at 79, 10 years earlier. He's practiced law in the PAW in Manitoba from 79 to 83. And in the community has been involved, Mr. Speaker, as Commissioner for Manitoba Human Rights Commission, also a member of the Manitoba Alcohol Foundation, member of the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Native Studies, and involved in many community-oriented activities. Mr. Speaker, at this time in Canada's development, that certainly whoever leads the First Nations or our Native peoples, treaty people, probably one of the most onerous times that could come upon, because I think it's no secret, as anyone involved in constitutional hearings will tell you, that approximately 2 out of 3 people that advance feel that one of the most pressing problems in our society today is to solve the issues that we have with our Native peoples, put them to bed once and for all. And of course, whoever is heading the Assembly of First Nations is going to be a very important part of that. And also, the reason I asked that the Alberta government and the Alberta legislature recognize it is that it's the responsibility no longer of just some corner of the federal government or some department of the federal government. It's the responsibility of all of us to get behind, and consequently I move that we send them our best wishes.
Careful reading of Standing Order 40 makes all of us realize that this is simply a request that the matter proceed. So there's a request for unanimous consent that the matter proceed. All those in favor of granting the request, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Thank you. The matter is carried. Honourable member, any additional comments to make with regard to your motion, or do you now just move it?
No, Mr. Speaker, I have very little more to say. I actually said the first because I thought I had to justify asking for the unanimous consent. And I was on a bit of a Hobson's choice. If I said nothing, someone would say, well, why didn't you say something? So consequently, Mr. Speaker, I feel that I've introduced the subject. I have outlined the person's qualifications, and I think by this unanimous endorsation of the motion, there is no question that he will get our good wishes. So I move the motion.
Solicitor General.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As the Minister responsible for Native Affairs in the province of Alberta, I know that the government will in fact be supporting this motion that is now before us. The very idea of a message to Ovid McCready is entirely appropriate, in my view, on his election as President of the Assembly of First Nations. He has served well in the vice presidency of this particular group and now steps into the shoes of Mr. George Erasmus, who is the retiring president of the Assembly of First Nations. And I think in congratulating Mr. McCready, we should also be willing to acknowledge the work of Mr. George Erasmus, who has held that presidency during a time and period when there has been increasing recognition of the difficulties and the problems that the Aboriginals have of this particular, of Canada. It goes without saying that the Alberta government will cooperate fully in the resolution of any problems that the First Nations peoples do have. This has been adequately demonstrated by the Honourable Premier, Mr. Getty, in his work with First Nations people of this province. And in fact, I am of the view that Alberta does not take a second or back seat to any jurisdiction in this country in dealing with the Native people. I would hope, however, in proposing the motion, the honourable member from the Liberal opposition is not suggesting that we step in and assume the responsibility of the Canadian government, as it appears to be ready to have us assume have the Canadian government assume the responsibility of education, which is solely ours under the Constitution. I hope that it's not expected that we will take over from the federal government their responsibility for natives and Indian Reserve lands. I suspect that that's not the case, but we must be very careful in how far we do go in attempting to provide that cooperation in resolving those problems. And And having said that, I certainly agree that Mr. McCready has a very large job in front of him. There's no doubt in my mind that he will serve the Native people well. Does not mean, of course, that we expect him to be a soft negotiator. It's my experience that if all parties negotiate honorably and negotiate very hard, that's entirely acceptable and ends up in agreements which are entirely acceptable as well. So I know the government side will support this motion.
Thank you. Calgary Mountain View.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to be able to make a few brief comments on my behalf and on behalf of the New Democrat caucus here in the Assembly this afternoon. I'd like to extend my congratulations as well to Mr. McCready for his successful campaign to be elected leader of the Assembly of First Nations. I had the occasion to meet Mr. McCready a few months ago when he spoke at a seminar at the Stony Indian Reserve at a conference sponsored by the Treaty 7 on the question of Aboriginal self-government. I was very impressed at that time with his comments, with his sincere comments and his ability to speak clearly and articulately about his vision for the future. Although he's a quiet-spoken individual, I can assure all members of the Assembly here that he is going to be a very strong advocate for the Assembly of First Nations throughout his term. And I feel confident that he's going to be providing excellent leadership for that organization. I think it's also appropriate, as the Solicitor General quite correctly pointed out, to use this opportunity to express appreciation to Mr. George Erasmus for the leadership he's provided to the Assembly of First Nations during his term of office over the last 6 years. It's been a tumultuous 6 years, but under his leadership, the Assembly of First Nations has plotted a steady course, and what has occurred under his leadership is that the profile of Aboriginal rights has taken on renewed significance for all of us in the political arena, indeed for all Canadians. And I think a lot of that can be attributed to the work that he has done on behalf of the Assembly of First Nations. Just a few comments about the next few months and years, Mr. Speaker, regarding the challenges facing Mr. McCready and the Assembly of First Nations. They are, without a doubt, challenges facing every single one of us, including all of us who are in this Assembly, Mr. Speaker. The death of the Meech Lake Accord occurred in part with the objection of one MLA in the Manitoba legislature, that being the New Democrat Elijah Harper. And the reason for his objection to introduction of the Meech Lake Accord for ratification in the Manitoba legislature was because the lack of recognition for the concerns of Aboriginal people in past constitutional negotiations and past constitutional agreements. He made it absolutely clear that in this current round of constitutional negotiations that we're about to begin, Mr. Speaker, Canada's relationship to Aboriginal people are going to be a key element of those negotiations. In that regard, Mr. McCready and the Assembly of First Nations are going to play a crucial role in terms of the ongoing relationship, the ongoing communications, the ongoing negotiations all of us are going to be engaged in. That negotiation will require responsible leadership from all of us, Mr. Speaker, and there's no doubt in my mind that Mr. McCready, as the head of the Assembly of First Nations, is going to provide the kind of responsible leadership, the strong leadership that Aboriginal people are wanting and expecting in this next round of constitutional negotiations. And currently, as everyone knows, Alberta along with all the other provincial legislatures under the amending formula, are going to be very much involved in a successful resolution to constitutional change and constitutional amendments. And in that regard, we may very well be called upon to endorse or perhaps ratify a constitutional amendment regarding Aboriginal rights. If that is the case, it's important that we have communications from the very beginning, and I think this step being taken today by the Assembly to express our congratulations is a good one, and I hope that the government and the Select Standing Committee will be able to establish ongoing communications with the Assembly of First Nations in the months and the years to come, especially as it regards in regards to the recognition of Aboriginal rights in the Canadian Constitution. So, on behalf of all of us, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, much sincere congratulations to Mr. McCready on his election last night.
Edmonton Glengarry.
Speaker, I wish to rise as well and express my congratulations to Mr. McCready for his win, and I think all Canadians look forward to his strength. The background is there in terms of his involvement with his own people and with Canadians. I'm sure that we're going to be able to solve a lot of problems. Speaker, I think that Albertans were pleased, I know Albertans were pleased with the kind of work that the Premier and the government did in dealing with the Métis of Alberta. But I want to take up on an issue that the Solicitor General raised, and that is that he commented about the fact that this was really a matter for the federal government, that we weren't going to step in and fill the void, as it were, for the federal government. I think that's been too much of the problem in Canada, this feeling that there is a void and leave it up to the feds, they should solve the problem. I think all of us have to solve the problem. And I think that, Mr. Speaker, we have a number of land claims in this province that are in difficulty. Claims that had been signed, or I should say treaties that had been signed that are causing difficulty to the natives of Alberta. Treaties that weren't signed, treaties that are the definitions in those treaties that are totally unacceptable in today's parlance. Mr. Speaker, the government of Saskatchewan, I think, has done some interesting things in filling the void, at least from their end. They attempted, by establishing a treaty commissioner, to deal with the problem of land claims. There was a problem in that because the treaty commissioner linked with a committee of the federal government, and it didn't work. The new treaty commissioner that was established in Saskatchewan did an analysis of what went wrong and what should be taken up as the way to solve the problems for the native people in Saskatchewan. And the conclusion of that report, and I'm sure the Solicitor General has seen it, says that the federal government must be involved, the provinces must be involved. And part of the solution is money, and another part of the solution is land. That there are many treaties, many unsigned treaties that require land to be used as part of the settlement. That clearly then involves the provincial government. So I'm asking that the attitude of the government change. The mindset should be one of not filling a void, but the mindset should be one of actively engaging the native community, the Aboriginal community, asking them to participate in the solution of the problems, and finding the mechanisms to do that. Thank you.
Call for the question. Summation, Westlock Sturgeon.
I'd make a summation as one I very much appreciate the time given to discuss the area, because I think it's one of the highest profile questions we have facing our Canadian society today. I can only say amen to the honourable member for Glengarry's point that too often it's said, well, it's a federal responsibility. What we forget is that we are the creation of the people that made the treaty in the 1870s and 80s, when the deals were made with our native peoples. This was a territory. And to try to rat out of it now because in 1905 we're made a province and saying that, no, we don't have a responsibility, is one of the things that's been wrong with the whole negotiating process. And this is one of the reasons why I mentioned the Alberta Recognize and Work With, because we are in effect heirs to what our territorial forefathers worked out with the treaties, and to try to say, no, it's not our responsibility, although we inherited and took over a lot of the land and areas that maybe did belong properly to some of the native peoples. We can now just erase or wash our hands like Pontius Pilate and say it is an Ottawa problem. It is very much an Alberta problem because we inherited the problem from our forefathers. Thanks.
All those in favor of the motion as moved by the member for West Loch Sturgeon, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries. Let the record show unanimously, and the appropriate certificate will be issued together with a copy of the Hansard and forwarded on to the new president of the leader of the Assembly of First Nations. Before we proceed, Chair needs to clarify what appears to be some confusion in some quarters of this House with respect to the introduction of motions and amendments. Just a reminder that because of some confusion that occurred yesterday from at least two of the caucuses, Chair does need to point out that it is the practice of this House to submit typed copies of amendments, whether they be to motions for returns or motions or committee stage, that those typed copies of the suggested motions or amendments be conveyed to the chair, whether it be in the formal part of our sitting or whether it be the chairman, the deputy speaker acting as chairman of the committee of the whole. In that way, we are able to ascertain whether or not the motions and amendments are in order. The chair also needs to point out that because table officers have had a chance, or perhaps have only had a chance to deal with it on a cursory basis, that they've been able to be involved to look at a proposed amendment or motion at an early stage, but the matter still has to be cleared by whoever is chairing either the committee or chairing the House as a whole. Again, we need it in written form because of the fairness that is involved in terms of having the motions or amendments copied in sufficient numbers so that all members of the House can see exactly the issue before the House. So we would appreciate your continued cooperation on that basis. Yesterday we had to do some quick work on behalf of one of the cabinet ministers. It was basically a housekeeping matter in many ways, but nevertheless the chair has the right to expect that from the government benches that this direction will be adhered to, as well as from private members of the House. Now, last night there was an unfortunate misunderstanding, I understand, which resulted with the member for Calgary Northwest making this statement to the House, quote, "Point of order on procedure. On that point, these amendments were submitted to Parliamentary Council on May the 10th on my behalf. So far, he has not seen fit to return them to me until today." Close the quote. That is at variance with the facts of the issue. A preliminary draft of the amendments in question were delivered to the Parliamentary Council office about a month ago. Corrections were made and returned immediately to that particular caucus, and I assume in this matter it was delivered back to the office of the member for Calgary Northwest. It then becomes a matter of research department in your particular caucus to deal with the matter, and then if there are any changes after they've been typed up, to get them back to Parliamentary Council or to the clerk or to the assistant clerk, so that we may then have another look at them before they are presented to the House. This is in accord with various references that you can find in Beauchesne and Erskine May. And if perchance you do not wish to follow that practice, then the House needs to be apprised again that if there are delays in the House before your amendment is read to the House, so be it, because the necessary surveillance, if you will, perusal rather is a better word, of the appropriateness of motions and amendments must indeed be taken by the chair and by the table officers. Thank you. Orders of the day.